Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, we have an awesome opportunity to take an in-depth look at the all-new 2020 Toyota GR Supra. Throughout the day, I'm going to have the opportunity to drive this on the road and the track. I'm going to get plenty of sound clips, and of course, I'll show you all of the unique aspects throughout the interior as well as exterior. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start her up, and let her run. The new Supra is going to be launching this July, and when it does, it's going to be offered with quite the color palette. This example is known as Renaissance Red 2.0. A smart key entry system with push button ignition does come standard, and there's going to be a couple of trim levels. The base is the 3.0, and then you have this one, which is the 3.0 Premium. It's got some extra features inside, full leather upholstery and whatnot. Base pricing starts at $49,990, and that's before a $930 destination charge. If you go for the 3.0 Premium, that hikes it up to $53,990. But for this year, there's actually a launch edition that's going to be offered as well. Limited to just 1,500 cars, and that's going to be $55,250. There's only a couple of optional packages on top of standard pricing, and that includes the driver assistance package, which is offered on all grades, and the JBL audio and navigation package, which is only on the 3.0, the standard model. The Premium comes with all of that extra technology. But to start, of course, all you have to do is put your foot on the brake, make sure the key fob is within the interior, then hit that button to go. Alright, we're going to switch gears for a moment. I'm sitting in an Absolute Zero White Launch Edition. The first thing you'll notice is the exclusive red leather upholstery, which looks really, really good. And I wish the lighting was a little bit better out here so you can see everything in a little bit more detail. But there's also genuine carbon fiber across the center console. Along with all of the standard features, the base model has a 6.5-inch display that sits on top of the dash. Features Bluetooth and iPod connectivity, but if you go for the Premium model, you get this larger 8.8-inch widescreen display, along with navigation, Apple CarPlay, a suite of telematics services, and more. There's also a fantastic 500-watt JBL surround sound system. Another exclusive feature to the Premium is a heads-up display that sits on top of the instrument cluster. Now let's dive into the powertrain. First, we'll pop the hood. All you have to do to release it is grab this handle and pull it twice. There's no catch up front that you have to undo. Traditionally speaking, Supras have been powered by inline 6-cylinders since the first generation, so it was only right for the new one to follow suit. Now, it's no secret that the powertrain was borrowed from BMW, but I will say it wasn't just a matter of picking an engine off the shelf and dropping it in. This engine has been thoroughly gone through by Toyota. The gearbox has been specifically tuned, all with an end goal of making sure that everything underneath the hood and the powertrain lives up to Toyota standards. That being said, what we have here is a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder with a single twin-scroll turbocharger. It's putting out 335 horsepower between 5,000 and 6,500 RPM, and 365 pound-feet of torque between 1,600 and 4,500 RPM. The engine features aluminum construction with chain-driven double overhead camshafts and 4 valves per cylinder. You also have variable valve timing and lift for both the intake and exhaust sides, and of course, direct fuel injection with an 11:1 compression ratio. So let's see how it drives. The Supra is rated to hit 60 miles an hour in 4.1 seconds, and it's got an electronically limited top speed of 155 miles per hour. I'll be perfectly honest, this thing is a whole lot quicker than I was initially expecting. It's also super, super nimble. A lot of people were wanting me to talk more about like how it drives and how it compares to the BMW Z4, which I can't do because I've never driven the Z4 before, but I will say it feels very BMW-like. Like the sound, the quality of it, which is definitely not a bad thing. Toyota's done a really good job putting their own spin on things, but everything from, you know, the stuff I was talking about earlier, how they went through the engine and the transmission, make sure everything was up to Toyota standards and, you know, blah, blah, blah. The suspension was all Toyota. You have a double joint spring strut front suspension and a 5-link design out back with front and rear stabilizer bars and all of that good stuff. The suspension, for the most part, is aluminum intensive to help keep down unsprung weight, but they did use steel in key areas to help bolster it up and just give it some added strength. What I find more interesting than anything, and I hope I phrased this the correct way, but the suspension, or the chassis and the body structure of this car, they were able to get it so stiff that as a package, it's stiffer than the body structure of the carbon fiber intensive Lexus LFA, which is like, really? What an amazing time we live in. If you look to the right of the electronic shifter, you'll see the sport mode button. The Supra actually has 2 modes, well, normal and sport. But if you wanted to, I guess, a la carte pick and choose what systems you wanted set to sport mode, you can do that. So when you hit sport mode, it stiffens up the steering and suspension, it alters the shift algorithm, it increases the exhaust sound a bit, which I think is more or less electronically enhanced. You get better throttle response, and it alters the behavior of that active differential out back. But if you wanted to, say, leave the steering in sport, but the suspension in comfort, but the exhaust in sport, you can do that. What's up, everyone? Hope y'all are enjoying the video so far, which is brought to you in part by Lexol Leather Cleaner and Conditioner. They've been a big supporter of the channel for a while now and just recently came out with a brand new look for their packaging, but it's still the same high quality stuff they've been developing for over 85 years. Lexol's 2-step process is as simple as it gets. The cleaner is free of oils, waxes, and other unnecessary additives to ensure that it's not going to damage or discolor your leather. The whole point is to lift off the surface contaminants that can build up on leather over time to give it a like-new appearance. After a thorough cleaning, you would follow up with the conditioner. Lexol recommends for long-term care and maintenance that you would do a full clean and condition every 6 months or so, but that also depends on how you use your vehicle. I've been using Lexol products on my personal vehicles for years now, so it really is an honor to be able to work with a brand with such a long history and one that I can truly stand behind because of its consistent results time and time again. So be sure to support the brands that support the channel. I put a link in the description box below if you'd like to give Lexol a try for yourself or just restock on your supply. I really appreciate it, guys. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the video. This thing also has 4-corner adaptive dampers, so if you wanted to ride this thing in normal mode all day long, it's perfectly fine. It's still tight, it still handles great, but you can just push a button and make it a little bit firmer, a little bit tighter, but even in its firmest setting, it's not uncomfortable by any means. These seats are also quite nice, speaking of comfort. 14-way power adjustment. The leather ones are heated. You have 4-way power lumbar. You have adjustable side support. Like, this is a really nice place to be, and the whole solidity of the car's body structure does a lot more than just, you know, boost handling and stuff. It just makes the car nicer. It makes it feel more refined. Like, there's some road noise, of course. You know, we have some pretty decent sized tires on here, but it's relatively quiet. It's quieter than I thought it would be. The transmission is awesome. Really awesome. Ooh, listen to that crackle back there. So what about the transmission? Well, it's an 8-speed ZF automatic. Pretty much a ubiquitous gearbox nowadays because everybody uses it because it's an awesome transmission. Like, it really is. And I do wish they would offer a manual for the Supra, but golly, it's hard to argue with a transmission that's this good. you have an active differential out back. It's not like a torque vectoring differential, but what it does, it's got these like electronically controlled multi-plate clutches back there that are constantly varying the lockup between 0 and 100%. So you're going around corners, that thing is doing what it's got to do, just keep you roped in place. Plus, you got launch control. As far as fuel economy, the Supra is estimated to achieve between 24 miles per gallon in the city and 31 miles per gallon on the highway. Premium unleaded is required, and the total tank capacity is 13.7 gallons. You should be able to expect an average of around 26 miles per gallon. All Supras come standard with a staggered wheel and tire package that consists of 19-inch forged aluminum wheels that are 9 inches wide in front and 10 inches wide in the rear. The tires come courtesy of Michelin, specifically Pilot Super Sports, 255/35s in front and 275/35 in the rear. The split 5-spoke design with the combination of gloss black and polished spokes is shared between both the base and the premium. But with the Launch Edition model, you get an exclusive set of matte black wheels that give it a bit more of a menacing look. The Supra steering is electrically assisted. It features both a varying ratio and variable assist based on your speed of travel. The overall ratio when you're out and about driving, especially on the track, if memory serves me correct, is around 15:1. Where the varying ratio really comes to play is low speed maneuvers. So in parking lots, parking garages, all of that kind of stuff, it's just going to make it a little bit easier to turn, so it doesn't take quite as much effort basically. But it's a 3-spoke leather wrapped steering wheel. Again, 2-tone for the Launch Edition models, with big grip bolsters at 2 and 10. Continuing off of the suspension discussion, I think the steering actually feels really nice. It's got some more feedback than what I've typically been used to in newer BMWs, and Toyota's steering wheel is different from the one that you would find in the Z4. It's a lot skinnier, which I prefer. It doesn't feel quite so chunky. It feels more sporty. You still got the grip bolsters up top, which is nice. It's just a good, clean design. I would think, you know, it'd be nice to have like a D-shaped steering wheel at some point, but that's more of a personal little tidbit more than anything, but it's a good setup overall. The thing that really bothers me about this car is the reception that you see across the internet. This car has taken a long time to come to production, but it seems like people have been just way too judgmental without seeing the car, being in it, seeing it being driven and knowing what it's like. Because, yeah, Toyota partnered with BMW to make this car, but this is not a new concept. Stuff like this has been happening forever. The Miata and the 124 Spider, the Saturn Sky and the Pontiac Solstice. There's something else that I can't remember too, but you get my picture. This day and age, the market favors more mass production, more, I don't know, practical stuff. That's why everybody and their brother is coming out with a new crossover, or performance crossover for that matter, and everybody's focusing less and less on sports cars like this. So the cost-benefit ratio really isn't there to do a complete R&D from the ground up and make a brand new sports car anymore, which that sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I hate that so much from from an enthusiast standpoint of knowing, like, you know, look at the 90s and all the performance cars that were there. It's just, we live in a different time. So I think it's amazing that this car even exists in the first place. I haven't had experience with the new Z4, but this is not like, I mean, it is very much like a BMW, but at the same time it's not. They were able to differentiate this enough that I would consider it its own product. The important parts from BMW that I like are like the infotainment system, the climate controls, all of the technology is super easy to use, which is, perfectly honest, is way more advanced than what Toyota has used in the past. So it's kind of a welcome thing, to say the least. But, you know, this is just a great car, and it's relatively attainable. 50 grand is no small chunk of change by anyone's measure, but for what this car offers and what it can do, and, you know, the fact that Even though it's not a fully Toyota engine, it still is a straight six. It makes good straight six noises. You get that turbo sound, you get these exhaust crackles. Like, this is a legit Supra for a modern era. Wherever it came from, like, golly, this car is just so awesome. Next, we'll go ahead and flip on the full LED exterior lighting and the hazards. Both windows are fully automatic and the mirrors are power folding. Let's check out the exterior. The Supra looks awesome in person. It's very aggressive, highly sculptural. There's a lot of really cool details in the bodywork. I do believe that this is one of those cars that's just best appreciated in person because of all those details. I'm not a big fan of the fake vents though. You got one in the front fascia right there ahead of the front wheel, one in the hood, and one in front of the rear wheel. Now, this looks very similar to the original FT1 concept, but again, they're not functional. When talking about size, the Supra's footprint is very similar to that of the 86. It weighs 3,397 pounds with an even 50-50 weight distribution. The front and rear tracks are quite a bit wider than the 86, but the wheelbase is actually 4 inches shorter despite the overall length being very similar. The double bubble roof is one of those heritage touches, but it's also quite functional. You have this dipped down portion in the middle right here, which effectively reduces the projected frontal area, thus reducing drag without impacting headroom. There's actually really good interior space in this. I'm 5'10", and I probably have a good few inches of space. Leg space is more than abundant, so you know, if you're around 6 feet or over, you shouldn't have any problem driving this thing. The design of the greenhouse itself was also inspired by the 2000 GT, which had a wraparound windshield. This has blacked out A-pillars, but the effect is somewhat similar. And these red mirror caps are one of the exclusive touches of the launch edition. Without a doubt, from a styling standpoint, my favorite thing about this car is the rear end. I'm a guy that loves detail, and this thing has a ton of detail. From that massive integrated spoiler to a huge diffuser, the twin exhausts. It's just awesome. The spoiler was said to be inspired by the spoiler that you can get on the 4th generation Supra Turbo. I believe it, because that car had a huge wing, and this one's not quite as big, but still pretty big. You have these really cool LED tail lamps. There's some other fake vents right here. Basically, you have this body line that continues down in the slight recessed portion, which again, that would be so cool if it was functional, because you would have air exhausting back here. I'm thinking about like supercars and all of that kind of stuff, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned about aerodynamics, and I'm just like, that would be so cool. But yeah, I can't complain too much. The car just has a great look to it overall. Toyota really tried to make this interior driver-centric, which I think is really important in a vehicle in this class. It kind of makes you feel more connected to the vehicle. None of the controls or features are too overly complicated. There's a ton of stuff that you can access through the iDrive system, but from your basic power controls to climate control, the drive modes and everything, it's all within a finger's reach. As far as safety, you have 8 airbags throughout the interior, including knee airbags for the driver and passenger. Toyota also includes a lot of standard safety equipment in addition to their star suite of safety systems. There's active features, and there's also the driver assistance package that I mentioned earlier that tacks on additional active features, and I'll list all of that in the description box below. Things like full speed adaptive cruise control, front and rear parking sensors, you have a standard backup camera. It's pretty well equipped. I also really like this digital instrument cluster. You have that tachometer front and center, a digital speed readout to the left. There's a whole bunch of different menus and information displays that you can bring up, and you have your fuel to the left, temperature off to the right. Clean design, very modern, easy to use. I like it. Of course, the Supra is a sports car at heart, but it's also decently practical. If you wanted to use it as a daily driver, you're not going to be too encumbered. I'll hop on the passenger side in just a moment to give you an in-depth look on like some of the amenities of the main cabin, but it is not short on trunk space. I can't remember the exact specification right offhand as far as like the dimensions and the cubic feet and whatnot, but it's a pretty good opening. There's some pockets to either side, so if you need to lay something longer horizontally, you can also load stuff all the way to the front seats if you wanted to. This one has the JBL audio system, so there's 2 subwoofers right there. Right there you have I guess an aluminum cross-car brace. There's a privacy cover here that if you pull up, you can actually detach it and remove it if you want to. Back at the passenger side, as far as storage space is concerned, you have a little bit across the console right there, where I was talking the wireless phone charging tray is on premium models. Towards the back, you have 2 cup holders. There's no like actual console that opens up. You have small door storage pockets and actually a really large glove box. It is damped, lined in felt, it's lockable, it goes back a little ways. It's worth noting the liftover height isn't too bad as far as picking stuff off the ground and hoisting it up. It's a wide enough opening that you can definitely fit like an oversized suitcase and you shouldn't have too much of an issue. There are cargo hooks in there so you can secure items. There's plenty of LED illumination. Up top, there's a little emergency release handle and 2 grab handles to make closing the hatch just a little bit easier. Well guys, that's just about it for this video, but before I sign off, let's go ahead and see how she sounds. I guess you can say this was a pretty fantastic day. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so. There's always a lot more where that came from, with car reviews, project videos, and more. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like below. It really helps out a lot. And if you subscribe, don't forget to hit that little notification bell. That's also super important. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.